Jamel, I don't remember when I felt famous. The first time I felt famous, oh gosh, maybe when I first heard my music on the radio. That might have been a time that I felt famous. And I can't even remember what the song was. But you must feel like even today when I hear my music on the radio, I blow up in my head. So it had to have been when I heard my music on the radio. Yeah.
Patty, you may not remember this, but I actually met you at the Detroit Metro Airport in front of Popeyes. This was a few years ago. I feel like it was
Oh,
4 or 5 years ago.
years ago?
Yeah, because I don't, I think it might have been, well, he was then
Oh
my
my goodness.
boyfriend. Yeah, I know. Like he was then my boyfriend, but he's now my husband. I think he saw you in the Popeyes. He was like, Patty LaBelle is
Oh,
in
really?
Popeye. Yes. And I was like, Patty LaBelle's in Popeyes. I was
I,
like, I
I
booked it.
remember.
Yeah,
I,
no.
Mel, I
You
think
think
I
you do?
remember.
Okay, all right. I know you meet a
I
thousand
think I
people.
do.
Okay.
Thank God I do. Yes. Well, it's
Yes.
good to see you again, honey.
Same
Yes.
here. And, I'm always wary about coming up to celebrities because, it's their personal time and I don't want to be that person. But you are on a very short list of people. Like,
Right.
I'm going to run up to you and get a picture. It's just what it is.
Yay. I like that.
um,
Don't ever
yeah.
be afraid of me. Never be afraid of Patty saying no.
Mm.
Yes.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because, as you know, for like decades, that people always, and most times it was complimentary, but to me, it was always an interesting connotation that people have labeled you a diva. What did you ever think about that label?
I never thought of it as something that I am. I am not a diva. I can't even spell diva. Um, that's what people think of me sometimes. And I always think that a diva is somebody who doesn't want to be bothered. I want to be bothered. So a diva, I could never be. That's
Yeah,
what I
that's
think about diva.
that's what I mean. It's like you're warm, you're so welcoming, and I'm not just basing this off the time that I met you previously, but just in general, that's just how you always have appeared. So I often wondered if that was a label that kind of bothered you a little bit because it didn't seem to be who you were.
It doesn't bother me because I know I'm not her.
Mhm.
So many people beg for that title, Jamil, but I've never wanted to be called a diva because that's not always so positive, you
Well,
know?
one of the thing that was true from watching the verses that you did with your good friend Gladys Knight, and just over the years, just knowing your story, is that there are so many of the top singers, the icons that we love, that you are really good friends with. And I think a lot of fans in our mind, we always wanted to view it as like some kind of competition was happening, but that did not seem to be the case at all. It seemed like you all really had a sorority with each other. What can you tell me about like you, Gladys, even Aretha Franklin, who we'll talk about in a
Ah,
moment? What was that like?
uh-huh. Well, with Gladys and I, we grew up sort of together on the road. When she had her baby, after she had her baby, I had my baby. When her mother died, my mother died. We were there for all of our good times and our low times. And when I was asked to do verses, and when it was with her, it's like, no competition. That's my sister. We sing the same kind of way. When she sings, I sing background. When I sing, she sings background. We never put ourselves above. And Gladys is one of those people too who are so welcoming to people and so nice. What you see is what you get. She's one of the sweetest people you ever want to meet. So she never shuns any fans. And to do that show with her, after I saw DMX and Snoop Dogg, I said, God, I wish they would call me for that. And then I got the call. And with Gladys, it was like perfect, perfect match. Yes, no competition, no battle.
We everybody who watched had such a good time. And did you all have as good of a time as we did who watched it?
You see it, I was doing the chair dance. I mean, I felt like I was on stage. I kicked my shoes off and did the stuff that I do on stage. And when I'm in concert, she was feeling it. We were both feeling it. I mean, it was fun. It was like we were doing our first show. At that time, it might have been 12 months out of circulation because of the pandemic. So we both acted as if we were doing our concert. Yeah, it was fun. Yeah.
When they first approached you about doing it, I know you said you when you heard it would be with Gladys that it made it even better. But is this something that you would have done regardless of who they said?
Regardless of who they said, I would have done it. Yes, that's a definite yes. To verses. Yes, you're honored to be called to do verses. Yes, it would have been a yes.
So I'm originally from Detroit, so you already know what Aretha Franklin means to Detroit. And
Oh
she's also,
God,
yeah, she's everything. I mean, she's the queen of our city, even
she's
still, will
everything
always be everything. Her biopic is
forever.
Respect Forever, Forever. Her biopic Respect is coming out soon. When you think of Aretha, what's kind of your favorite story that comes to mind?
Well, back in the day, we hung a lot, not hung a lot, but she called me about 6 months before she passed and reminded me. She said, "Patty girl, you remember we used to hang at this club in Detroit when we were doing a show in Detroit?" And we so I acted like I remembered, but she remembered. She remembers everything, but I don't quite remember the club. But I know we had a lot of things together that we did a lot, and most people thought that we were enemies. That's a story that's relevant, and we're not. We've never been enemies. I've always admired her as the best singer in the world. And before she died, we did talk about doing a duet together. That was like 6 months before she passed. And it never happened. But I've always wanted to do something with her. And to see my baby Jennifer portraying her life is such a blessing to me because Jennifer and I talk seemed like every other day. And when she was about to do the story, she said, Mama, tell me something about Aretha, the way, because you guys travel in the same circuit and at the same time. And what was it like? I said, well, it wasn't easy back in those days for Aretha or Patti LaBelle. So we struggled, but through it all, that show had to go on. And that show always was phenomenal with Aretha Franklin, speaking of her. And just, I could never say anything bad about her, just everything good. She was my hero.
Yeah, you
She
said it
is
was.
my hero.
Yeah, it is. You said it wasn't easy back in those days. People, because they know a little bit more about her backstory and yours, describe what it was like to be, a black female performer, trying to make a career. Like, how did people treat you in the industry as you guys were going show to show?
In the industry, of course, we were treated as Black women, who weren't thought of greatly. So when we traveled from Philadelphia to LA in a station wagon, whenever we would go through the South, of course, we had to go to the back doors of restaurants and get takeout food or stay in a less than nice hotel and be treated like Black slaves. And we're so classy and so elegant and so phenomenal Black people, period. But at the time, people just thought of us as underdogs and not to be respected. So it was a lot of that, for Gladys, for Aretha, and for me, and for anybody who traveled, back in the day. And still it's not so great for some of us, so but it's what it is. And I've learned to live with all of my bad moments. Everything that happened to me bad back in the day, I took it as a badge of learning. And I always knew I was phenomenal, but they would try to take that away from you. So all the bad moments that we had traveling for 20 hours in the station wagon, all of that helped me become who I am today.
Mm.
Yeah, so it was
Um,
rough, but we got through.
so seeing knowing that Aretha again has this biopic coming out, it's only a matter of time before we see your story on the big screen. Have you been approached about a Patti LaBelle biopic?
I've been approached a few times, um, and it has to feel perfect for me to even think of somebody portraying Patti LaBelle. And I don't know who it would be. I don't know how I would feel about my life coming on that big screen. I think I would be happy. But this too has to happen for me one day soon. And then I can say yes to the dress. But I'm still waiting to exhale. I'm waiting. For
What
the
would
right.
be
It has to be right.
what would be the number one thing that would be most important to you if your own biopic were done?
Hopefully I'm living when it's done. Now that's the most important thing, that I have to be here when it's done. Because if you're not, things can go a little shady and shaky. So that's the main thing that has to happen, is that I have to be living before it's done, while it's being done. You
Oh,
understand what I mean?
I do. I mean, because that way you have input, creative control, so that your story is told
Oh, right.
accurately.
And not that if I do leave it and it's done, my son will be here to make sure every I is dotted and every T is crossed. But I would like to be here when it's done. That's the only thing that I would make as one of my main things to say yes or no to. I would say no. I would say yes if I'm living and can control it. Yes.
So one of the more interesting, you had so many interesting parts of your life, but I remember I first heard about this on Twitter and I didn't think it was true. And then I Googled it and I was like, oh, it was actually true. Was about you and Otis Williams. I didn't know that you all were engaged, number one. But then you told the story about why you were no longer engaged, and especially, being from Detroit. I was like, wait, he asked you to do what? So for those who may not know this story, Patty, you were engaged. Otis Williams, one of the Temptations. You all were engaged, but you
I
called off the
I was in,
engagement.
I called off the engagement because at one point he wanted me to move to Detroit and sort of like not be Patty anymore. In his own way, he did want me to still remain Patty LaBelle, but how can you if you're going to be married and you're going to live in Detroit? I love Detroit, but do I want to live in Detroit like for a long time? No, I want to continue to go from Chicago, Detroit, Paris, wherever I want to go as Patty LaBelle. And it would have been not a comfortable marriage with Otis. I love him. He's such a great man. But he knew that we just weren't going to gel. And before we left each other, I said to him, I'm going to keep this ring. And I kept the ring. My mother took the ring. I don't know where she put that ring to today. We can't find that ring. My mother said, well, he done gave her that ring. He ain't getting it back. So I didn't want to take a chance and not find out who I would be. And this is
Well,
who I am.
well, what was his reasoning for not wanting you to sing anymore?
I don't really know if he had a reason. I guess he just took the stance and saying, well, if you're going to marry me, you have to be my wife, wife, wife. But you know what? I must ask him that question because it's not fair for me to say what he was thinking when I've never really asked him, why would you want me to stay in Detroit or whatever? And the funny thing is that he introduced me. Well, I met him by my husband, who I ended up marrying, taking me to see the Temptations in Philly at a club. And that's when I met him in Philadelphia. And my ex-husband introduced us, me and Otis, because he knew to get tickets for that show. And after the show, we met Otis, and that didn't work. And so Armstead, who took me to the show, was still waiting to exhale. And so I ended up marrying him. It's a crazy story.
That is
We were married for
crazy.
34 years. It's
Wow.
real crazy. So had I married Otis, I might still be married to Otis. I don't know. He was a great person, so I can't say it would have been ugly. But I have to ask him, why did he want me to kind of stop?
Yeah. Though
I'll
I
call
want you
you
to
Otis and
know,
ask you that.
though I want you to know, if you would have come to Detroit, we would have loved and embraced you. You'd have been one of us,
Like I
Patty.
said, right, Detroit is one of my favorite cities. I love Detroit, but could I be married and live in Detroit? No, my home is Philly. So, yeah, so it didn't work. It didn't work, but I got that ring.
Yeah, that's always the question. Is
Yes,
like,
I
what
know
is the
that.
proper protocol? If you aren't engaged, are you supposed to give it back? Do you pawn it? Like, what do you do
Yeah,
with it?
I guess it's owner's choice. It
Hmm.
was my choice, my mother's choice. She hid it, and he couldn't have gotten it back because she hid it. I kept saying, Mom, where's the ring? I wanted to see the ring again, but she said, I got it. So when she passed, of course, we never found out where that ring was. It might be still in that house somebody's living in now. She might have buried it in the wall or something. But I never knew what happened to the ring. But she had it. And I think
Uh,
Otis would be happy to know my mother really wanted that ring.
mm, you've had such a long, illustrious career. And you've been famous for a while, but it's a question I ask all my guests. When is the first time you actually felt famous?
Jamel, I don't remember when I felt famous. The first time I felt famous, ah, gosh, maybe when I first heard my music on the radio. That might have been a time that I felt famous. And I can't even remember what the song was. But you must feel like even today when I hear my music on the radio, I blow up in my head. So it had to have been when I heard my music on the radio. Yeah, I felt
Well,
famous.
Well, one thing that you've always come off as somebody who is always very comfortable in their own skin, even though I know you were kind of shy as a kid. The name of this podcast is called Jemele Hill is Unbothered. So I'm curious to know, Patti LaBelle, when did you become unbothered? That's kind of recent.
Girl, I became unbothered about 40 years ago. About 40 years ago. Yeah,
Yeah.
because it didn't matter, who bothered me. It really didn't matter who they were. I just knew that I was going to wipe that off my page, that you can't get in the space anymore. Yeah, that's when it happened.
Hmm.
And I'm still that way today. Things don't bother me the way that they used to. Things don't make me so nervous and so afraid of being Patti LaBelle, like singing out, doing just big mouth things, just being Patti. So I realize that I can't be bothered with those who don't want to, who don't know, with those who bother me.
Mm.
Yes. And I held that for a minute and I'm good now. I'm good.
Is is that just something that comes with sort of wisdom and experience?
It has a lot to do with wisdom because at a certain age, if you don't know who you are and what your greater assets are or your whatever, then that's kind of sad. And I'm like when my mother was living, she taught me a lot about owning me and loving on me more than anyone else could. And I learned that from my mom. Her and my father had fights all the time. And one day she just had it and said, I am me. I'm Bertha Lee Holt. I'm going to stay this girl and I'm going to persevere. And you find out, from experiences, I found out, that things don't can't bother me anymore.
Mm.
Things won't bother me ever again.
You made the successful transition from being primarily known as a singer into somebody who became a bit of a Martha Stewart type, especially with the way you could really a chef more than anything else. Even though you have certainly talked about and have an overall lifestyle brand, was there something that
Mhm.
that happened or made you decide that you were ready to make this transition into cooking and more lifestyle type of things?
Yeah. I've always been one for interior decorating. I love inside homes and I love bedding. So we started with the bedding. I love hot sauces. We started with sauces, barbecue sauces, a bunch of different things. And of course comes the pie and then the macaroni, everything in Walmart, all the great foods. I do believe they're great because I made them and I trust my taste buds. And and I trust my price point, so I don't want to outprice. I want to make sure you get quantity. But more than that, it's going to be quantity because you're going to get what you pay for, but quality is more important than the quantity. And I believe in just presenting myself in a way of honesty. I mean, it's my food is honest. I'm honest. I, but I never thought of going from singing to this. It blended. It just happened because when I'm not singing, I'm cooking or cleaning, my house or Lysol and bleaching up and stuff and washing walls and getting the woodworks painted, stuff like that. So I've always been that interior girl. And then, things started happening with my Good Life products and with things are great, they're great. I never knew that it would be this great, but it is.
How
Blessing,
often,
another blessing.
definitely, how often does Patty LaBelle go grocery shopping?
If well, for the last 17 months, twice a week, I go to the farmer's market because I have to see my food, and I have to smell it. Because you get home and you didn't smell that fish, girl, you want to fight somebody when you get home and it's wrong. So they call me the unnecessary smeller. My assistants when they go to the store, why are you smelling that? Why are you? I said, because I'm buying it. And do I want to get home with some bad smelling groceries? No. So if it's bad, I'll call the manager and say, sir, you can't sell this to anybody. Why? And they know it's me. Why, Miss LaBelle? I said, because I'm not buying it. I said, because it's not worthy of customers paying their money for this. And a lot of times people won't understand why I do that. I do it because if I come ahead of you, you're not going to buy what I just smelled. That was awesome. I mean, awful, awesome, not awesome, awful. I have a bad habit of smelling stuff they say, but that's my pride to smell whatever I buy, to look at it and say and ask them honestly, when was this put on the shelf or whatever? They'll say today. I said no. I said tell the truth, and sometimes they'll honestly say no, last week. I said why didn't you just say that, boo? So I'm a stickler when it comes to fresh food. Yeah, bad to a point.
All right, with that in mind, Patty, maybe you can settle a bit of an argument or debate that me and my husband have when it comes to food. So he's the type of person that
Uh,
he goes strictly by expiration dates, right? So if it says on the 18th,
okay.
it's it. He's like, if the 19th comes, he's like not touching it at all. Me, I could be a little fast and loose where
No,
I'll
that's
just
not true. You can give it a few more days. When you smell it and okay, it's time, it's expired. If the
exactly.
18th doesn't mean you throw it away. So I go with you, Jamel. I go with you. Yeah,
Hmm.
save it for a few more days, husband. No, don't chunk it right away. Just give peace a chance. Yeah, I say don't throw it away on the expiration date. Exactly.
See, I knew. I told him I was just like, see, we both grew up in the hood, and you all sedity now. Like you're supposed to smell it first and then go by
Right.
that.
That's it. That's the way I know. That's the only way to do it. Sniff
Mhm.
it. Yes.
Are you one of those people that if you're in a restaurant that you smell your food before you actually eat it?
To a fault. I do. And it's a habit. I can't stop that habit. Or I'll look at it and I'll look at my son's plate or someone says, Zori, let me smell that. Let me see. Mom, no, it's embarrassing. I said, okay, you get sick. I try to warn you. Sometimes they don't see what I see. I'm a real foodie. I see things that they don't see with the food and they just consume it. Yeah, so I will take a smell at a restaurant if I can get it on the fork, do like that before I put it in my mouth. Yeah, I do.
Did you have a bad experience? Is that
Yes.
why?
Most people you have bad experiences every day. Like in grocery stores, people are going to sell you expired food. So you don't want to take a chance, like I said, get it home and it's old as meat. Oh no, I've had uh, incidents before where I
Mm.
purchased it and or my housekeeper, he would purchase it being a man, and he doesn't even have a sense of smell. So I said, Edward, I said, did you look at the date? Did you try to smell it through the paper or something? No, it was fine, ma'am. I said, no, it wasn't fine. So he hates going to the store with me because I'm gonna just look at everything and smell everything. Because when I get home, I want to cook some fresh food. Yeah, so I do that. And people don't like going shopping with me for groceries or to the restaurant. So I don't go out too much.
So, what does a Patty LaBelle grocery bill look like?
It's not I buy a lot of food. And I buy a lot of canned goods, things that can expire, for a year or so. So when I go shopping, sometimes I like to go to Costco's, you know, and get stuff, a lot of stuff and share with, my son or whoever, but get a lot of food, when it's reasonable too and it's fresh. So my bills are very dear. My food bills are very, very dear. Expensive, yeah, because I like to shop and I love great food. And I just like to buy a lot of good food.
Are you that mother or that friend that if there is a sale on salmon that you picking up salmon for everybody?
Not sale. I'm not a sale girl to tell because it's on sale. Sometimes it's on sale for a reason.
Okay.
And I'm sometimes not sure of that reason, So then you really smell, because you say, oh, it's cheap, cheap, cheap. So you don't know why. So when something says sale, I back away. I'm just that girl. I back away.
Well, except for with like toilet paper,
I
right? Every time
do.
toilet, even with toilet paper or no?
Stuff like that. I buy the whole store. No, with stuff like that, I can get all of it. Paper towel. But when you getting a certain chicken or something on sale, try to figure out why it's on sale. So instead of me figuring it out, I just don't touch it. I'll tell my friend when he goes shopping, my housekeeper, don't buy anything that's on sale when it comes to meats or veggies, or just don't get it.
I
Yeah.
feel like this is a TV show. Going grocery shopping with Patti LaBelle. Like I'm all in on that.
Ooh. Oh, this would be a show for your eyes. Oh yeah, it's not fun. It's not fun.
Yeah, I would
Not
love to see
fun.
that. We are talking
Okay,
about cooking. Yeah, I mean, but I bet it would be fun though, because it's you, so of course it would be.
it would be.
I Yeah.
I'll show you things.
You recently published the 20th anniversary edition of your first cookbook, La Belle Cuisine: Recipes to Sing About. What does it
Yeah.
mean to
Uh,
you that your very first cookbook and foray into this that is stood the test of time?
that's what I'm saying. It stood 20 years, and I'm blessed because I can still see the 20 years. I can still feel it. I can say, God, that's great because my mind is still right. And for it to be coming out after, my god babies weren't born then. Their pictures are on the cookbook and they're cooking like grandma, at least they think they are. And it's just, I have 3 new recipes in the book and some new pictures. And it's just that the book has stood the test of time for 20 years and it's back. And it's back for all of the younger girls or younger guys who, when their mothers were using the book to make the macaroni and stuff, they weren't here. So now the younger kids can pick up that book and learn how to cook. Because if you get this book and can't cook after, you need to stay out the kitchen. It's so easy. The recipes are so great, so easy and just fun. So it's a book for the youth. And anybody who wants to buy it, but I want the young girls to learn how to make a nice meal.
Yeah. Do you feel,
Or the
because
guys.
I know in many respects, cooking is generational. And I'll be honest, I didn't really get into it until I got married. Because when you're single and you're just cooking for yourself, it's like not as fun. Right.
Right.
Right. But
Hmm.
now I really enjoy it and actually find it kind of relaxing. You think that still that generational love for cooking is still there?
Oh, it's still there. I mean, you're born into it. You're black, right? You had a
I
white
am.
grandmother
I do.
or auntie who cooked all the time, and so it's in your genes. You know how to cook. Some people are just too lazy to pull out a pot and try to make a meal. But I'm saying with this book, and if you don't feel like doing the cookbook macaroni, go to Walmart and buy my macaronis right there on the shelves. And it's great. And you can pretend you made it, tell your family, I made this, take it out of that patty box and go for it. But it's in us to cook. Yeah, it's not a curse, it's a blessing that we all have that gene that we can put out a great meal. And I always say too, my food is not better than your grandmother's or your mom's or anybody's, like sweet potato pie. I know there's so many people who make a better sweet potato than Patty LaBelle's. So I'm not saying that mine is the best. It's just that mine is available. That's all.
Well, having when the patty pie came out, as everybody knows, like it was all the rage, and you had to really strategize to try to get one. And this is back when I was at ESPN. We actually ate one on air, and
Really?
yes, it. And of course, I'm thinking like, okay, it's really not. It probably won't be that good. Listen, that pie was legit, y'all. Legit. Okay.
That pie It's so good. It is.
It's
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 really
so
a good
good.
pie.
Yeah. So you
Uh-huh.
definitely
Thank
did that.
thank you,
Um,
sweetheart. Yes, I
yeah,
did.
you did that for sure. You a lot of the recipes that you have in recipes to sing about and just throughout whenever you talk about cooking are from your family. So be
All the
honest.
time.
Who
Yeah.
yeah, who was the best cook in your family?
My father, much better than my mother. Yeah, he was a cooking man. He just stood up there and it just came natural and he didn't have to worry about a recipe. He knew whatever he put in that pot was going to make us say we want seconds and thirds. He was that guy. Beautiful man and beautiful cook. Go daddy.
Well,
He
listen,
was the best.
Patty, before I get you out of here, because you've given graciously of your time, there is a game I like to play with all my guests, and it's called This or That. It's very simple. I give you two
Okay.
choices. You have to make one. And I
All right.
purposely made the test hard, just so you know. So, all right, we were.
All
Yeah,
right.
I did this on purpose. I know you though. I know you'll excel at this. We were just talking about your family and the recipes. Your aunt Mary's Philadelphia butter cake or your sweet potato pie.
Her butter cake. Aunt
Mm.
Mary's butter cake. It was the best. I mean, I would bake her. Actually, it was my sister-in-law, Mary. That's her name, Mary, and she made the best butter cake. So I would take her butter cake over my pie any day. Yes. And that wasn't hard to say because it was phenomenal. Yes.
um, if you asked me to, or if only you knew.
If only you knew.
By the way,
Uh-huh.
I saw you on a Black Lady sketch show when you did the
Oh,
yeah, that was awesome.
on my own.
When you did On My
It was
Own.
so much fun. Yes. It's a great show. My gosh, it's
Yeah,
wonderful comedy.
yeah, very very funny.
Yes.
Greens or macaroni and cheese.
Gosh, both. You can't have one
You
without
gotta
the
pick
other.
one.
Okay, macaroni and cheese.
Okay.
Macaroni. Macaroni.
What do you think is a secret to a
I
good
had to pick
macaroni and
one.
cheese?
Yes. The more cheeses you put in, like I do mine with 8 cheeses and like a lot of butter, half and half cream. Oh gosh. Mozzarella pulling, you know, provolone pulling, uh, jack pulling, and then of course Velveeta, the black people cheese, has to go in that sucker. Yes, it makes a great macaroni. It does.
You are 100% true. I put it in mine. So yes, that's how my mother taught
Right?
me. That's what you
That,
do.
that's it. We do that
Mm.
for sure.
I know she was a dear friend of yours. So living all alone or old friend, talking about Phyllis Hyman.
God. Okay, I had a choice to do her songs. Living All Alone, or what's the other one?
Old friend.
I try to record Old Friend. Old Friend. But I couldn't sing it right. I could not sing that song right. That's one of the most beautiful songs ever written. I tried. So, of course, it's Old Friends.
Mm-hmm.
Old Friend.
Mm.
Yes, that's the one.
Well, how often do you think about Phyllis?
As much as I think about my sister Jackie,
Mm-hmm.
she and Jackie were the best friends. That's how I met Phyllis. Jackie brought her to my house in Philadelphia years ago. And Jackie and Phyllis would have their party moments. Okay, you know what I mean, right? I said, girls, can y'all simmer down now? And they said, come on, Patty, join us. I said, I can't do that. But so much fun. And we went to see Aretha Franklin together at Radio City, Phyllis and I and my ex-husband. And we went out, we did everything. And I always begged her to try to bring it down a notch. But she was where she wanted to be. And I miss her like I miss my sister Jackie. They were Heckle and Jekyll. I mean, you're talking about two fun ladies. Fun, fun, fun. So daddy took the T-Bird away and they just lived their lives. And yeah, I miss her a lot. And her birthday was July 6th. And yeah, I miss her. I miss that voice. There'll never be another voice like that. Never.
Mm. Speaking of unique voices, obviously you have one of the most unique in history. So, Miss Patty, when can we expect some music from you?
Woo. Very soon, Hunty. Not honey, Hunty.
Yeah.
Very soon. I'm working on new music. I think 22, you'll get some new music from Patty LaBelle. 2022. Promise.
Okay. Well, in that regard, was the pandemic, did it offer you an opportunity to maybe, write a little bit more, sing a little bit more, or record more? Did it give you some of that downtime you needed?
I did a lot. I did a lot of recording, uh, a lot of thinking about new music to sing, a lot of rehearsing somewhat to keep my voice strong, like scales and all that kind of stuff. Because for it's now 17 months before I've done a real show. I mean, I've done some things, some spot things that I sang maybe two or three songs, but the real 90-minute show singing voice, she lay dormant for a minute, you know, because I didn't have a show. Then after I realized that I wasn't using it, because if you don't use it, you can lose it. So then I started getting on my craft more by practicing, singing out loud in the house, or something, but making sure this didn't stop. Just like I've been wearing pumps because, wearing flats for all these months, you have to get back into that high heel for shows. So I've been walking around the house in pumps and pretending I'm in a real costume and holding a microphone and belting out. So the pandemic, you could lay dormant if you like for the whole 17 months, but I decided not to because this is my life. This is what I do. So I've been on it. I've been on it.
Now, I don't know why you were practicing with the heels and the pumps, Patty. We all know you're going to kick it off. Like, you're going to kick them shoes off about 10 minutes into your show.
As I get out, that's what I do for real. But I'm gonna give him that fierce pump for two songs, honey, and then she got to go. Yeah, and I got the pumps for you too. I've been getting new fierce pumps, and I even carry some of them out there so fierce if I can't walk in them. But you'll see those pumps. Oh yes.
I know that's right. And you're performing in
Yeah.
Vegas soon. Is that correct?
Well, that's a private show, the 11th of
Ah,
September, but we start my real tour on the 16th of September.
okay.
We start for the public the 16th of September.
All right. Well, we
Yeah.
certainly
Uh,
look. Oh yeah, I'm sure because I know so many performers missed actually performing, and you're one of
oh,
the, yeah,
yes.
I bet, yeah, you're one of the must sees in music history for sure.
Thank you so much. I can't wait. I can't wait.
Well, just thank
Yes.
you for not only writing the soundtracks to many of our lives, our mother's lives. Like my mother listened to you so religiously growing up, which obviously made me a
Oh,
fan. But you have just
thank
written
you.
so much of our lives with how you sung, and now for teaching a generation of people how to cook, and that it's not as hard as we think it is. So we owe you on a couple fronts.
Oh, I thank you so much. And let your husband know not to throw it out on the 18th. Okay, keep it a few more days and smell it.
Trust me,
Yes.
I cannot wait to tell him this. I'll be like, Miss Patty said you better, that you don't throw it out on the
Yeah,
18th.
right. They give you a few days after that expiration date, they give you two more grace days. So wait until the 20th. Okay? What's his name?
His
Your
name is
husband?
Ian.
Ian. Wait a bit, boo. Okay.
I got you. Well, Miss Patty, thank you so much for spending time with me.
All
Good
right,
luck.
honey.
Can't wait to see you back on the stage.
We will soon.
All
I want to
righty.
see you too.
Okay.
All right, baby.
Bye.
Bye.